The draft booster is dead. Long live the play booster.
Mark Rosewater and Wizards of the Coast have almost as many problems as Jay-Z has. Let's get into it. Hello and welcome to The Day.
Thank you for spending your time with us.
I'm Jake.
I'm Joel. Welcome back to another episode of Jake and Joel Are Magic. We got the banned and restricted announcement here from October 16th, which is today. As we're shooting it, no changes to announce for Oh, Jake, what is this here? What is this here? We got big news today here at the bottom of the BNR. Well, I was excited for a potential, Rakdos scam banning.
Good grief. There's going to be so much fury that comes from this.
Oh my God. Okay, we do have big news though. What is this? What are play boosters? Oh, that's the name of the article. Okay. Play boosters. The set booster and draft booster are being combined into a new type of booster we're calling the play booster.
He outlines a lot of problems here, and the solution to all of these problems seems to be the play booster.
Yeah, so they're taking the set booster and they are taking the draft booster and they're combining them into one booster. Right off the rip, I just think no other context that this is a pretty good thing. Jake and I have been covering this game for quite some time at this point, and I'll tell you, market confusion over MTG products is a very, very real thing and a daily problem for consumers everywhere. So Jake, my knee-jerk reaction without diving into any details of this is simple equals good. So I'm down for a change like this, depending on if they, do it the correct way.
Some folks in the Discord and also I'm in an MTG text. Some folks were talking about it today, and they were saying getting rid of one of the boxes. When I say the boxes, I'm talking about draft, set, collector boosters. Getting rid of one of those to simplify things, like Joel is saying, that is important and that is good. Getting rid of a draft booster, when you hear that, it's hard to kind of digest at first, but the play booster is sort of like the renaming of the draft booster that incorporates set booster elements. So
to very poorly and quickly summarize this article as you go through it, our collector booster, as a side note, is not changing at all. He led with that. He was like, look, I know we're saying set booster, draft booster, play booster a lot in this article, and we're not talking collector booster, but that's because they're doing fine and we like where they're at and we're not changing them. But around,
they will evolve based set by set,
right,
depending on the elements of whatever set that collector booster appears in.
Exactly. But they want to combine the set and draft booster. Set boosters, their first problem as to why they did this, set boosters had been outselling draft boosters, and that's just the kind of bottom line of it. All these other problems, a lot of them just stem from the fact that set boosters are what people wanted to buy, draft boosters are what people wanted to play, but that was happening much less often than the set booster. That was causing inventory problems. Stores stopped buying draft boosters. People were confused.
Hold on just 1 second, because I kind of want to touch on what you were saying about problem one there, right?
Yeah.
Is that the set boosters had eclipsed the draft boosters.
Right.
And one of the reasons that Mark doesn't talk about here at all, or we could call him Mr. Rosewater, Morrow, whatever you want to call him. What he doesn't dig into here is kind of how, variants and all of this have kind of pushed, if anybody's going to go open a draft booster for the experience of wanting to find cards that are cool and poppin', like the set booster is obviously the way to go over the draft booster. So the draft booster, unless people are playing events with it, it's just sitting there because people would rather open a pack that has a better chance of having something worth any kind of value in it, even if the pack costs a little bit more. Just a little bit of context there, because the draft booster is simply for play. The set booster is like, well, I want to have something and maybe find something cool.
So stores were buying both, trying to guess at how much play was going to happen versus how much purchase was going to happen. And if there was too much play, there was nothing to purchase. If there was too much purchase, there was no draft boosters to play with because it was just set boosters. And so they just stopped buying draft boosters altogether. People only want the sets. The drafts are only making a little extra money. Most stores break even on those. The obvious confusion in the marketplace that Jake and I talked about it. And so boosters were going downhill on the draft side. They obviously, though, and one of the pieces that I think people are missing from this, there was a lot of drama on Twitter today about Rosewater saying that this was to save draft. I think when you read that statement, you think, so y'all were talking about draft potentially going away, and he was meaning from the mental context, per his clarification and per their PR guy Blake, who came sprinting out of his throne room to put out the fire that Mark had lit on Twitter. He was coming from the headspace of obviously draft was always going to stay because, like I've highlighted here, Jake, draft is a huge part of the ecosystem. It's a driver for the community building, and the data shows that the longer you play, the more likely limited is a large part of your play experience.
Yeah, I can kind of piggyback off that because this was one of my big takeaways from the article as well. I started playing constructed standard Bant back in 2009. That was one of the first ways that I engaged with the game. Shortly after that, I played Commander, but it took a little while for me to delve into playing limited or let's say draft or sealed. And it's because it's kind of an intimidating space to dip into if you're not familiar with it. You're going to be in a timed experience sitting next to other players who are experienced at the game. And you're going to have to pick cards and build a deck in the moment. For somebody who doesn't really know how to play the game, that's kind of an intimidating thing.
Oh, it's
now
chaos.
We have stuff like MTG Arena where you can kind of do that online before you actually go to a game store and do it. But at the time that didn't exist. And so, yeah, I would have never played draft or sealed if I hadn't played standard or Commander first.
Well, I think that anybody thinking that limited could have possibly gone away just needs to take one extra second and think about the pre-release experience in its totality. There's nothing to replace that. We can't not have limited because that's literally the reveal of a set. Almost every single set has a pre-release that is sealed. And so it just doesn't make sense for it to go away completely. But that's just to it. We saw the tweet. It was kind of a silly drama to us as far as we're concerned, because it just feels like there's no possible world where limited can ever just go away. And so the only other solution is, well, let's specifically have a booster that's just made for drafting. Oh, wait, that's what we're fixing right now. And so it always they've got to dovetail the two together. And so that's what they've done. Jake, with the combination of these boosters, sets, and drafts, anything to point else to before we go to the actual what a play booster even is? I think that is sort of the overview of why we're moving in this direction.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. You have, if the draft booster is going away, it can only go away and be replaced by something else that is going to cater toward what the draft booster did.
Right.
It has to be an item. It doesn't have to be called the draft booster. It can be called something else, but there has to be a product that is there for play. Enter play booster.
Yep. So as we move through his article, he goes, okay, so the initial thought is, all right, well, let's just let set boosters do that. He highlights a lot of issues why set boosters couldn't just become the replacement and let's just get rid of draft boosters. You can go and read those if you want.
But he starts with a bunch of problems and then he's like, I can't just go into problem 7. We're just going to start listing these as issues.
Yeah, exactly. It was like set boosters are playable, but we designed those for a collecting experience, not for a play experience. So
an issue is just a rebranded problem. It's part of a problem. An issue is just part of a bigger problem.
Soon, they're gonna have an article that says, guys, we can't have all these problems and these issues. From now on, we just have kerfuffles, is what we're calling them, and we will have kerfuffles 1 through 8. Let's
mind bogglers.
Yes. So look, these are play boosters, y'all. Okay. They look like a weird Frankenstein of draft and set. You got 6 commons, then you've got a slot 7 that is the 7th common, or it could be a list card, or the article also goes on to say that it could be a special guest card, which you've seen us cover. We've talked about special guests on this channel, at least 2 videos. Go look up the latest Mana Crypt video if you want to hear about special guests. Then you got, Jake, uncommons, and then from there you enter your rare and mythic slots.
Yeah, so that rare or mythic is going to be, it is like an amalgam, and one thing that you're going to notice is that there are 14 cards here that are playable instead of 15, which is typical for draft boosters. So the play booster, a big difference between it and the draft boosters, it will have 14 cards instead of 15. So if you are the kind of person who plays draft, you get toward the end of a draft and those last few cards that don't really typically matter, you're going to have less like draft chef. Now, the way that I feel about this is going to lead to some pretty stacked limited experiences. Because potentially you have a list slot here, which can be a rare mythic. You have slot 11, which is a guaranteed rare mythic. Then you do have slot number 13, which is the non-foil wild card, which can also be a rare mythic. And then you have slot number 14, which is a foil wild card. A big takeaway from this, that's a big positive, every single play booster is going to have a foil in it. So this is just, we're entering into guaranteed foil in every pack Magic the Gathering territory.
Man, we talked a couple months back about how base foils are basically nothing now. Nothing. Yeah. This is the funeral dirge of the foil, yo.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
This is somebody playing taps for foils right here, because those are now dead. They're going to be cool to pull, especially if they don't curl. But yeah, Jake, you said it. 1 through 14 is how many cards you're playing with. I think that sealed experiences potentially have the ability to go crazy with, oh, well, in this booster, I opened up 4 rares. They were all in my 2 colors, and one was from the list. So it was like, Ruinous Ultimatum or something completely out of nowhere.
You said like Prime Time,
yeah,
or
just Primeval Titan, and I'm playing green. So yeah, I mean, the slot 7 has the smallest possibility of hitting, but the highest kind of like reward ratio there, I would assume, if the special like guests variants are sick. Yeah, exactly. And so
now but before you freak out and you go, wait a minute, that slot number 7, the list is huge. The list is the kind of thing, it could be any number of cards. Keep this in mind. There is a big change happening with the list, and this is going to be one of the most important things that we talk about in this video. The list is going to change dramatically.
300 cards it was. Now it is going to be 40. The list is going to be something that is legitimate now, in my opinion, y'all. We have always sort of dismissed the list as nothing, but now since we have one type of booster besides the collector booster to open, special guests will be appearing in that, and it is down to 40. 10 will be rare, mythic rare, and they're going to be curating this, I would assume, and from what they're hinting, in a more intimate way from set to set. And so 12% of the time,
you don't get something too game breaking,
right?
Is kind of the idea. It's like, if a list card does show up, it's a card that can kind of fit into that limited play experience. And sure, it could be over the top, it could be extremely powerful, but it's not going to be the kind of thing that makes that a broken play experience. At least that's my takeaway, and I might be completely wrong on that.
I don't know. Do you think it's going to be more common that you're actually seeing these list cards that are heavily impactful to the overall game?
Well, my question is, if it's going to be 40 cards instead of 300, one of the complaints about the list early on was so many of the cards, if you got lucky enough to get a list card in a set booster, for example, it would be just Garbo. You'd be like, damn, bro, why am I getting this stupid common that does nothing? Versus a card that is, even if it's just a common or an uncommon, that does something more powerful.
Right.
I wonder if they're going to be making it to where, if you do get lucky enough to hit that 1 in 8 chance, those 40 cards, maybe 10 of them are really good, and the other, 30 aren't that great. or whatever, because it's 40, right? So yeah, maybe 25% of those cards are exceptional, whereas the rest suck. Whereas maybe the list in the past, the odds were much worse than that. It's hard to tell how they're going to curate it, but it is interesting.
Yeah, I would hope that it's somewhat cohesive with the design of play for whatever booster that is, i.e. NL Drain rolls were a thing, so like maybe the list for that one had some more auras, had some more enchantment auras or payoffs or
there you go,
or synergy pieces for enchantments, so that you're not only getting a cool card that's not out of the set, you're getting a card that's playable in the experience. I don't know.
Or like if in Ixalan we bring back one of the dinosaurs from OG Ixalan that didn't get a reprint.
Exactly.
Something like that.
Exactly. Right. So outside of that, it's pretty self-explanatory. You're going to have this list card slot. You're going to have a guaranteed foil. The connection thing, they're not doing that. With the set boosters, you had those connected cards that were all on some sort of theme, and that theme could be anything, but it was a theme.
Connected commons and uncommons, yeah.
They're not doing that.
Tested low, they say.
Yeah, nobody gave a crap about that. And it would affect the play experience anyway, so easy cut. But having overall one type of booster, Jake, which is pretty my main takeaway, is having one type of booster is a benefit. So now we'll have the cards that you buy to play the game, or are the cheaper boosters. Now you'll basically have the cheaper boosters and the premium boosters, and that's it. Way easier to explain, right?
I think so. And I think for stores like the local game store, this is a good thing. What you have to think about is, what are players willing to pay for the cheapest booster pack?
Oh man.
Right? That's a big part of this, is like, yes, this should be in theory a little bit more stacked pack opening experience, because that's what they're trying to go for here.
Right.
But at the same time, for people that just want to play the game, this is going to be way more expensive.
Yep.
Mark says in the article, it's not going to be much more expensive, but you really do have to think it's probably going to be more expensive. Now, set boosters had 24 packs. These boxes are going to have 36 packs. It is going to be equal to a box of draft as far as quantity goes. But how much more expensive is it going to be than a regular draft box? That's yet to be seen. We haven't seen it yet. We won't see it for a couple sets. So
you got to think comparable to a set booster box plus, right? Because the set booster box is 24, I believe, and these are 36 to align with draft. But the individual pack price is going to align with the set booster price. So the box is going to have to be more expensive. It's also going to push the cost of paper drafts, because now these packs are more expensive. And so the people who just like to go
price support will also be more expensive.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yep. I mean, just all of it'll have to go up. And so if this was some long play by a Hasbro executive to be like, we gotta raise the prices of these booster packs, y'all. Why haven't y'all done that? And they were like, well, we can't just do that. And he was like, great, here's a multi-year plan. We're going to create set boosters. They're obviously going to outsell draft boosters. Then we're going to make an excuse for, we still want draft obvi, but we can't sell draft boosters anymore. So we're having the new play boosters, and they're more expensive, but there's a guaranteed foil. That's a lot easier way to lead us to water than to just say, hey, boosters are changing. They're more expensive now, but there's a guaranteed foil. I feel like there's a lot more pushback to that than this slow path they've taken.
There's another key element to that story as well, if we say that that's true, and that's the collector booster, which has been a beacon of like, this is the expensive thing, right? So now we have in our memory this collector booster, which is reminding us this is the expensive product.
There is a more expensive
cheaper
one
than that,
right?
Yeah. There's always something more expensive that I can buy. So this is actually pretty chill. 2 set boosters. I could get 2 set boosters for the price, or 3 set boosters for the price of a collector booster, if that's the thought, like draft is going to go up from a $25 or a $30 experience, or sealed, let's say sealed.
Sure.
Sealed is going to go from a $25 or a $30 pre-release to like a $50 or a $60 pre-release.
Sheesh.
You're going to have, I mean, doing a pre-release, that being $50 or $60, they have to figure out, if they want to sell expensive products like this, they do have to figure out how to make the cards worth something again. Because of all these variants, so many cards don't have any kind of value. Like a foil wild card, us 5 years ago, or let's say, 5+ years ago, hearing about a foil in every pack, we would be like, what?
Wow.
They're putting foils in every pack?
Holy moly, those foil mythics. You're gonna get
Those
the
are
expensive cards.
Dude, if we get foils in every pack, we're gonna get, dude, there's gonna be like foil Ponder, there's gonna be foil Lightning Bolt. Think about all the foil commons that are gonna pop up, dude. You get foil Kadama's Reach.
It is
foil,
insane how little I care when you say those words nowadays.
Right. And these are cards that, were good, are good. I'm not foil Brainstorm Common.
Sure.
Dude, the first time we heard about foil Brainstorm Common being reprinted, it was just like, oh my god, they're reprinting Brainstorm. We're going to be able to get a foil Brainstorm out of these packs. No one gives a flying shit anymore.
No, not at all.
So yeah, dude, it's just like,
oh my god, if you want any of those cards, just go pick one of the 30 variations they've printed in the last 4 years.
So now, they get rid of the product that is the cheapest, and they're saying, we want you to buy these more expensive things, but this is going to be a more stacked experience you're going to have, because Mark Rosewater, he does talk about it in his article, how he's like, in theory, this should be more fun.
Yeah.
He's like, you are going to be pulling more rares, more mythics, which should add value to your experience. So even though you're paying a little bit more, you should be getting more valuable cards. But we're telling you now, as people who've been watching and collecting the game, that the cards value has been decimated because of all of these collector products and variants. So all of the baseline stuff, foils and non-serialized, non-confetti, non-surge foil stuff is all extremely cheap. So the cards coming out of these play boosters, I don't expect to be a lot more valuable. And maybe the list is going to be a spot where they can really juice that up, and you're going to be pulling stuff like Demonic Tutors and Praetors and really good stuff. But they do have to figure out some way to add legitimate value to these packs. And if that means in the future a great curbing back of variants to help balance this out, I'm all for it. They have to figure it out, though.
We'll see, man. With a remastered set per year, some sort of Masters or Horizons or Legends set per year, sets within sets. Maybe the special guest slot is going to pull back on that a little bit. That's a place they could immediately pull back on reprints, is sets within sets, because my goodness, that's been a huge amount of reprints over the last couple of years, has been those sets within sets, because there's no other place to put those cards. And so, yeah, hopefully, I mean, next year we're going to all brand new planes, which I think is a great direction. Some of them we'll like, some of them we won't, but it'll all be new. We're not just rehashing. I mean, we are starting with Ravnica again, but it's not a Ravnica focused set, I guess. I was going to say story, but I guess those kind of things are interchangeable, right? And so Murders at Karlov Manor, where these play boosters are starting, y'all. We are not getting these for Ixalan. We are not getting these for Ravnica Remastered. Just starts with Murders at Karlov, and then that is the end of draft and set boosters forever. Well,
you
at
will
least
get
until they change it again.
Special guest cards. You will get special guest cards in Ixalan. So there's discussion of special guest cards that are in here. Those will appear in Ixalan, and they will be appearing in sets moving forward from Ixalan. But the specific play boosters start in, what is it? Murders of Karlov.
Murders at Karlov Manor, which is a murder mystery themed Ravnica set. So how do you feel about it?
I don't know, bro. I feel medium about it. How do you feel about it?
I feel fine. I think that in general,
expensive.
Yes.
I think that's a big takeaway for people that just care about money. It's like, this is going to make playing Magic more expensive.
The realistic part of me is like, this is good for the LGS. This is good for
Yes.
consumer clarity. And then the conspiracy part of me is like, this was a really long way to get us to pay more for drafting Magic the Gathering. And I'm, it's hard not to look at everything that's happened since Booster Fund came around and see the experiments and see the things they've tried and what they've kept and what they haven't. But it's hard for me to imagine they weren't like plotting a 5 or 10 year, plotting in a not nefarious way. Plotting sounds nefarious. They weren't planning a 5 or 10 year roadmap of this is how we strategically get them to accept that we are just going to raise the cost of Magic the Gathering boosters. Doing away with MSRP, that goes first. Then we're going to create the more expensive option, like you said, Jake, where all of our Lexuses are going to make Toyotas look very affordable. And then, and then we're going to say, now we're going to have the Corolla and the Camry. And then eventually we're just going to fuse those into the Toyota now, because we liked a lot of what we did with Corolla and Camry, but people only wanted Camrys, but we want to keep the Corolla fans around. And that's Toyota and Lexus for you.
And then part of that conspiracy that you didn't touch on that kind of dawned on me during what you were discussing is, and then this is also a way to drive traffic to MTG Arena, because they will keep the prices the same over there. That way, people who do want to draft will choose to play Arena because it's more affordable than playing paper Magic.
Yep. There's no draft and set boosters on Arena. There are just boosters.
That's right. You just get a booster. They're going to change it. Sure, they change it to a play booster, whatever, but they don't have to do an insane markup on those, because those are just,
ones and
cards
zeros
online, ones and zeros. I mean, it for me, it comes, if I knew that the cards in those packs were going to have good, solid value, then I would care more about being able to pull multiple rares and mythics per pack. But as we've seen, you and I make so many videos about buy singles. Just go out and buy singles. Here's a bunch of variants that are racing to the bottom. Go buy these cards that are under $1. Go buy these great cards that are $5 or $10. So for me, it's like, if I am buying a pack of cards that is expensive, I'm expecting these to be like $8 or $9 a pack. Then I just hope that I have a good chance of pulling something good.
Y'all, that is our initial thoughts and ramblings on the play boosters. We don't legitimately think it's some conspiracy theory. It's just kind of interesting to go through those mental experiments and figure out how we got here. But overall, hoping that this is a positive change that in the next couple of years we won't even really consider anymore. But we will see. Let us know in the comments what you think about this, because we'd love to continue the conversation.
If you have a local game store, we definitely want to hear from you. Leave your thoughts down there so that we can hear how you feel about this and what you think about what Morrow says about clarity and that kind of thing. Is this something that you're looking forward to, or is this something that you're like, no, this ain't gonna work?
We stream every Wednesday night about 9:30 Eastern, y'all. This is definitely going to be one of our topics in the coming weeks. So come hang out and discuss this with us. We'll see you there.
Goodbye.